Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Spearing. I'm Mufon's Director of International Investigations. Thank you for joining us tonight. Recently, there were some congressional hearings. The House Oversight Committee on UFOs, UAP, and other aerial phenomena held some hearings on September 9th. At one point during the session, Missouri Representative Eric Burleson showed a video that purportedly was a Hellfire missile taking out some sort of UAP with a Hellfire missile off the coast of Yemen. Apparently, he claims that it was on October 30th, 2024, but we'll talk about that later, some things that remain a mystery. So right now I'm gonna play the video for you, and when it's done, I'll introduce the Mufon photo analysis team who've done some very interesting work, and we'll have a back and forth with them tonight. Okay, let's show the video.
And I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does. This is when it zoomed out, so you can still see it traveling. And I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does.
Okay, very good. So I have three members of our Mufon photo analysis team. I'm going to introduce our chief photo analyst first. His name is Marc D'Antonio. I'm sure many of you know who he is. He's an astronomer. He's a photo and video analyst. He's a drone expert and television personality. So, Marc, what's your take on this particular video?
Yeah, hi, Bob. Thank you for having me do this. When I first saw the video, I remember writing you an email in the team right away because I thought this was going to get legs very quickly, and it was probably important that we jump on it, right? So I ended up saying a few things which I felt were obvious observations of this object. Number one, the motion of the object is in part due to the aircraft, the Reaper drone flying way up high overhead and tracking the object. All right. And so when you watch it tracking the object, you're focused on the object, and the drone is traveling probably 120, 140 knots, maybe more in the other direction. And so the ground motion that we see of this object that looks like it's speeding across the ground is not really true. That's an illusion. It's the illusion caused by the speed of the drone going the other way and using a telephoto to zoom in on the object. And then you actually see the ground speeding by down below. Those of you out there that are familiar with telephoto lenses and how they operate like this will be nodding your head saying, yeah, of course, that's right. Then there's a segment where it zooms out and you no longer see the object speeding across the ground in the same way because you're now zoomed out and you get a little more realistic semblance of the speed, right? So it wasn't moving very fast. Now, the Hellfire missile that was launched, at least ostensibly we were told it was a Hellfire. The Hellfire missile, and I think Greg's going to talk about Hellfires in a little while when we talk to Greg Cisko later. He's going to be able to define all the different types for us, I think. And the thing about the Hellfire is that if you're going to shoot down a UFO with a Hellfire missile, I think you want the Hellfire to explode on impact because that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they've traditionally done. But this one does not. It just pierces the object, and the object breaks into several pieces and starts falling. I feel falling to the ground. Again, we're looking down on it from above, so we can't really tell that. But it looks like the parts are falling away, and it looks like they're falling to the ground below. Now, how far below? Probably a few thousand feet below, maybe a couple thousand feet, not sure. We don't have any data on the altitude of the balloon, or the object rather. We don't have any data on really where it was. They said it was Yemen, as you mentioned, Bob, but we don't know that it was. Okay, but let's take that all as fact. So when you fire a Hellfire that's supposed to explode at some oncoming, unknown object, you would expect it to explode, and it didn't. It just went through it, and then that's when it broke into parts. That's why, in my estimation, it appeared like it was piercing a soft target, like a balloon, and it just looked that way to me. And do I have any data to back that up? Well, I have observation, and that's it. But it did appear to me that it broke into several distinct parts, and one of the parts, oddly, was this rectilinear square object that never changed shape as it tumbled away from the site of the impact. So I don't know what that was. Was it a payload under a balloon? I don't know. Either way, I think that it was probably a UAP video that was shown to Congress for whatever reason, because there's a UAP craze right now, okay, in the United States Congress, and it's all good. That works for us because we can actually help figure these things out. And I think that with our photo analysis team, we're actually uniquely placed to figure a lot of these things out. A lot of different points of view, a lot of different strengths. So I think that in my particular view, my opinion is it's probably a soft target like a balloon that was struck, and the motion was motion imparted by probably mostly the motion of the Reaper drone flying high overhead and zooming in on the object as it was tracking it.
Okay. All right. Next, let me bring in Greg Cisko. Greg is a member of the photo analysis team for Mufon. He's a state section director in Illinois. He's an astrophotographer, and he's one of my international field investigators also. Greg, you were talking earlier about some of the interesting things about Hellfire missiles, the different types, how large they are. Could maybe we start off with your expertise on Hellfire missiles?
Sure. And my expertise is basically from being a pretty serious flight simulator person. I used Hellfire missiles in Apache Longbow simulations, and there are air-to-ground missiles. So that's the first thing about using a Hellfire against a UFO. They're air-to-ground missiles. They're designed to destroy tanks and bunkers, and they basically destroy whatever they hit. Many years, several years after the Hellfires were developed for air-to-ground, they were repurposed for slow-moving air targets like helicopters and drones, and now apparently UFOs. There was a third style of Hellfire missile, and this was called R9X. It did not have any ordnance that exploded, so that could explain why you didn't see an explosion in this incident. And they had 6 super sharp razor blades which would deploy instead of detonating, and it was called the Ginsu, and it's basically intended for manned targets, soft targets, humans, to take out individuals. It's since they're laser targeted, they're very accurate in their aiming. So the Hellfire missile is 64 inches long. You can look at the video and determine the length of the missile coming in, assuming it is a Hellfire. And the way that we assume it's a Hellfire is because the laser LRD LAYS DES is the laser targeting designator for Hellfires with the Reaper drone. So when you look at that laser designator, you assume it's a Hellfire. They're 64 inches in length. They travel around 1,000 miles an hour. And from those numbers, since we kind of know those numbers, if this is a Hellfire, you can kind of get the idea that the UFO, the object, is probably, I estimated, it's probably 3 times the size of the incoming missile. So what I see when I look at the video is shortly after the video starts, you see the UFO brighten up. There's like a surge. I called it a power surge. And whatever happens, the laser lock, the targeting lock is lost momentarily, and the UFO drifts to the left and a little bit below. And then the system reacquires the UFO. You see the box move, the targeting lock box move over to the UFO, and it recenters on the crosshairs. And after this happens, the UFO starts moving its nose toward the incoming position of the missiles. And what struck me about that is Commander Fravor said that something very similar happened to him when he was trying to intercept the Tic Tacs in the USS Nimitz incident in 2004. So all of a sudden, you don't want to see a UFO point at the incoming missile when Commander Fravor was talking about the same kind of a thing, I think. So there was that happened. After the missile hit the UFO, there were these three cubes that came out of the object. And in The Crash in Corona, Stanton Friedman's book, on page 112, they describe the crash retrieval of some of the alleged creatures or entities in the Roswell crash, many miles away from the debris field, or Max Brazell's debris field, and they found what they thought could have been escape capsules. So when you see a UFO get hit by something and you see exactly three things pop out, and three entities are recovered, that's the number that you hear about many times when you really look into the UFO crash retrieval aspect of the phenomenon. I also did a frame-by-frame analysis of the missile as it's coming in toward the UFO and once it hits the UFO, and it seems to take more frames for the missile to go through the UFO than the equivalent distance before the missile hit the UFO. So it seemed like the UFO presented some resistance to the missile, is what my frame-by-frame analysis of that particular part led me to believe. So who knows what it is? It could be a balloon that a Ginsu Hellfire went through. It could be something more anomalous if the object is really 3 times bigger than a Hellfire, and Hellfires are 64 inches. It would be like a 15-foot object, right? Does that have 3 entities in it? Who knows? But yeah, that's basically essentially my analysis of the Hellfire UFO video.
All right, thank you, Greg. Maybe later we'll go back. We'll talk about the surge, which Mark called a balloon, and we'll look at different angles of that. And you also have a close-up picture of the cube-shaped object. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
Right now,
Sure.
let me bring in the Seth Feinstein. He is our Colorado State Director. He's also a member of the photo analysis team, and he does a lot of extracurricular projects, which I can't go into right now. He also shared Volunteer of the Year last year at our Mufon symposium. So Seth, you're up. What do you think's going on?
Well, my focus is a little bit different because I want to know what the DoD, now the DOW, and the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, is putting out there for us to look at. Because we do have a body of work now, and we can start to detect patterns of what's happening. Previous hearings supported by videos, testimonies with military personnel, and intelligence officers who are whistleblowers. They're intended to foster transparency, accountability, and put a public education out on the UAP topic. But what are they putting out there for us? What are they doing? The examples that we have of UAP-related video evidence that was put out there is the Tic Tac video of 2004, declassified in 2017, and widely discussed in 2 hearings, one in 22 2022, and another in 2023. We have the gimbal video of 2015. We have the Go Fast video of 2015. Both of these were declassified and released in 2017. So anything that comes out in conjunction with any of these oversight or congressional hearings has to be declassified first. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing them. Okay, we have the pyramid-shaped UAP of 2022. We didn't get to see this video because it was shown in closed sections and has not been declassified. And now we have the Hellfire UAP strike of 2024. And it was declassified and released in September of 2025 and allegedly was filmed off the coast of Yemen on October 30th of 2024. So Dennis Fryerbooth expressed his skepticism about what the video's authenticity, and noting that it appears cropped and edited. He raised the possibility of a classified military test or a deliberate misdirection. In my research, I found that there is a balloon that is owned by NASA and is used for military experimental purposes of a Raccoon rocket balloon hybrid system. And this balloon actually moves very slowly until they fire off the rockets. So we have Marc's testimony that he thinks that possibly the object was a balloon. And we have Dennis' testimony that he thinks the object was possibly had some sort of military function. And I have research on the Raccoon rocket balloon hybrid system that could actually be what we're really seeing. So the released Hellfire UAP strike video is cropped and edited, and it's unverifiable. We can't pull any metadata out of it. It's a narrative, relies on heavy anecdotal interpretations that had been planted in the heads of the congressional people with the stories they're telling to the witnesses or feeding back to the witnesses at the hearings. So they don't really know. They only know what they've been told and what's been released for them to see. Okay, without a complete and unaltered footage, an analyst cannot confirm its authenticity. The Arrow's releases of all these videos fail to meet the standards of genuine disclosure. So what are they doing? I think what they're doing is releasing the parts of the videos they want us to see based on what they want us to conclude from what's happening. It's not a true, genuine disclosure. Without the original unaltered video, which is available to independent groups like us at Mufon or the public, everything is speculation rather than evidence. There's really no evidence. As it stands, the Hellfire UAP strike video represents a nothing burger. It really is just something to talk about. We don't know what's factual about it, and we don't know what's fictitious about it.
Okay. So I can conclude that we're not sure if it really occurred near Yemen, the shoot down. We're not really sure if it's military. We have no metadata. And for people who don't know what metadata or exit data is, in digital photography and digital videos, there is information embedded that can tell you latitude, longitude, date, exact time, and they never seem to release this information. There's a number of videos that we've been shown over the years: the Tic Tac video, the Nimitz video, the jellyfish over Iraq, the Mosul spear, and now this video. We never see or get the entire video, never mind the metadata. So it really is hard to analyze what we're seeing at this congressional hearing. But more interestingly is that Representative Eric Burleson recently hired David Grush. David Grush, you might remember, was the whistleblower. I believe it was the 2022 hearings where he said that the United States government has off-world crash debris and non-human biologics. This individual is now working for Burleson, who showed the video at these hearings. So at this point, we don't know if it's a genuine UAP, if it's a military vehicle, some sort of exercise, if it's really going on in Yemen. But Greg Cisko, who's an astrophotographer, is very good with astronomy, photographic stacking software, and was able to pull out an image of one of the small objects that ejected from the larger object. And I was wondering if we can put that up now. To me, it almost looks like a dice, you know? So I'm curious, Mark, what's your thoughts on this, and what's your thoughts going back to the bloom or the surge that we talked about earlier? First, let's talk about the cube. Well, let Greg describe the cube first, and then I'll go to you for your analysis. Greg?
Sure.
Yeah, the cube. So I'm not really sure if this is actually a cube or it's tricking your eyeballs, to be completely honest with you. All I did was increase the dot pitch a little bit so it magnifies the image without adding any artifacts that you'd get from like sharpening or any other artificial means. And then I just changed I slightly adjusted the contrast a little bit to bring out what looks like a cube. But with the video, so I think what that video actually was, I've seen many YouTube videos about that Hellfire UFO video. It appears that the video was like a cell phone video from someone that took a video of a monitor screen, and that's why you see the cut off edges, is because it was but then why wasn't the cell phone moving around, right? So the resolution is very bad. It's very hard to get any kind of detail out of whatever the video was. And I'm not really sure what to make of it, except to me, it looks like a cube. The other objects down there look like a cube. On the zoom out view, you can see like sparkles in the water. So I don't know if those are reflections of the main UFO or these cube objects in the water, but there's also sparkles associated with the object as it's as the video was zoomed out. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of it, to be honest with you. I said ejection pods because it's something that I've read about, and and not only did I see that ejection pod reference in Crash at Corona, but it's also from a lot of the Stringfield literature that I wrote. I think that escape pods actually showed up in one or two of the crash retrievals there. Unfortunately, I didn't document it like I should have. So,
Okay. All right. Very good. I'm curious because what the dark spots might be on the lighter cube. But anyway, Mark, what do you think?
My opinion was basically, I was thinking, in looking at this fall away, it looked like it was tumbling away. It looked to me like if it was a balloon, it would be the payload because it was rigidly shaped and didn't change shape as it fell. If it was doing this kind of thing and morphing around, then it could be a video artifact of some kind, but it looked more like it was actually rigid. And the dark spots could just be a product of the infrared system, because this is an infrared system, by the way, obviously, and most likely these infrared cameras, they don't have high resolution typically. In fact, a friend of mine used to work on the Reaper program. He actually just passed away, unfortunately, and he serviced these cameras. He serviced the vehicles. And one of the things about the infrared camera, in general, infrared cameras, the higher the resolution, the more astronomical the cost. And so you have only a certain size sensor that you're going to have on these infrared systems. And you might think, well, the military's got the best ones. Not always true. But the Reaper does more than IR, okay, infrared. It does also visual, and it has very high resolution visual as well. But the IR systems are generally only looking at heat. They only see heat. They don't see shapes. If the heat makes a shape, then you'll see it. So when we're looking at this, we're not looking at a shape difference. We're looking at a temperature difference. So the black spots are an area that might be hotter or cooler. And I'm not sure, based on what I'm looking at around on the rest of it, it looks like it was black for hot and white for cool based on what it appears, except the missile was very, very bright white. So maybe it was the other way around. Maybe the missile was hot. Okay. But those black spots represent lower temperature then in that case. And the white spots are higher temperature. And that higher temperature can be 5 degrees different. It doesn't have to be 1,000 degrees different or 500 degrees different. It just needs to be different enough to show up. And the camera is going to automatically adjust for the brightness. And in fact, if the thing gets dimmer in the heat zone, it's going to raise the gain automatically so you can actually see it better. It does that automatically. I have a FLIR system here on one of my drones, and it does exactly that. Now, I know that the cube object, and we'll talk about the surge after, I guess, Greg, when you get to that. But the surge, to me, it may be indistinguishable from the way the camera works. It could be a camera process that we don't know. And why don't we know? Well, for a lot of reasons. We don't have access to the data. Okay. Now, as Seth mentioned, we don't have the HUD either. Okay. The HUD is on this frame, but it's down below out of the view because this is, as Dennis said, a cropped view of this scene. Sanitized for public release is what they'll say. Okay. I've been in programs like that, and I know what you have to do to sanitize for public release. Only thing they left in the screen was the LRD lays designator. Okay. Because that's pretty obvious. Now, the other thing is, in terms of the slowdown that you mentioned, Greg, I noted that and I thought, okay, one of the things is we're looking at this in 2D, but this is a 3-dimensional view. We don't know if that missile is heading down and away from us or up and toward us. We don't know if it's curving up toward us and we can't see that because we're looking straight down on it and it's curving upward at us or curving down into it, in which case it would appear to move slower, and we could tell that by, and I don't know if you did this, Greg, maybe you did, analyzing the length and seeing if the length of that object that's captured shortens in any way as it goes through. If it doesn't, then to your point, it looks like maybe it was slowing down. But if it does, it means that the missile's changed its angle, which would appear to make things slow down because of that deprojection of its angle. So I know I hit a couple things here, but I do think that we have to keep in mind this is an infrared view. So the black spots are probably cooler spots than the white spots. Or vice versa. I don't know, because it would tell us if we saw the HUD, it would say whether it was white for hot or cold for hot. I'm sorry, or black for hot.
Well, the thing that got me about the cube is Ryan Graves. He said that what they were seeing on the East Coast is cubes surrounded by translucent spheres, and the cubes were probably 18 inches in diameter. They weren't very big at all. So maybe these are the kind of cubes that they saw, I don't know. But
no, that's a good point.
He's reporting cubes. And so when you see something like this and you see a cube, it's like, holy cow, maybe this is one of them. I'll be honest. I thought when Ryan Graves mentioned the cube and has nothing to do with the Hellfire thing, I thought that might be the UFOs in their natural form.
Okay, let me interject. A couple of interesting points. MUFON does have a whole bunch of cube-shaped UFO reports over the past several years, including one that nearly collided with a commercial jetliner coming in on approach to Philadelphia International Airport. I want to ask a question. If at the bottom of the screen, we see the main object, and it looks sort of torn, as if it could be a balloon. But the video continues for a while, and it seems to go on a pretty straight trajectory, unless it's a trick of the camera. But we don't see the end of the video, so we don't know if the thing landed. We don't know if it crashed, but it seems like it stayed aloft for a while. And Greg,
Well,
you
we
also,
don't, can I say, make a
sure,
comment on that?
yep,
Well, there was a cut in this video to an additional shot.
right,
The additional shot may or may not be part of this same event,
or it could have been before reversed,
or
right?
it could have been another event.
Or it could
I
have been another,
mean,
okay.
it looks completely different, the shot. I mean, the focus and the zoom is different, but how do we know it's the same event?
You talked about when it zoomed out.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
zoom out.
it was
I-
it was an editing cut.
Yeah, no,
Maybe.
I obviously it could have just been the direct feed from the Reaper too, zooming out and going back to a wide field view. It could be that, so I don't necessarily think it was an editing cut, and I don't see tomfoolery every which way we turn. I know that they're showing us sanitized for public release stuff. So it's going to be frustrating as heck because we're going to know going in the door that unless we have very high clearances, we're not going to be able to get a hold of this data. And once we did, we couldn't talk about it. Now,
And that's one of the reasons why disclosure is difficult.
well, for sure. Now, you mentioned, Seth, too, that if something's being released, it has to first be declassified. It has to be declassified, but the whole video doesn't have to be declassified.
Right.
They pick a segment, as I mentioned twice so far, they sanitize it for public release, and then that part gets released. When the gimbal video was out there, when the Tic Tac was shown, I wrote a white paper on the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast. All right, and that's at MUFON. I don't know if you saw that, but all of those objects didn't do anything outside of the scope. The videos didn't show the objects doing anything outside of ordinary potential aerobatic and dynamic actions. And the fact is that there's more to those videos than we were able to see. Okay. The gimbal, for instance, you saw it you hear the weapons guy say, "Oh, look, it's rotating." It wasn't rotating. That was an infrared flare. And every time it moved, as an example, every time it moved, the clouds jumped because it was a filter in front of the sensor that was rotating. Okay. And so that's what made that infrared flare, and that's what made it rotate. I actually recreated that as well in the white paper. So the point is, I think it's important, we have to look at, for instance, how IR works. That's what we're looking at here. Infrared views, infrared camera. We don't even know if it was a Westar. We don't know if it was some type of FLIR. We don't know what it was on the Reaper. There's a published stat on what the Reaper has for IR capabilities, but they're modified. Just like as Greg rightly pointed out, the Hellfires were modified. We didn't know about the Ginsu until recently when it actually got used on a poor schmuck driving in that car over in Iraq or wherever that was. Okay. But so they're modified. So I don't know exactly what's on the Reaper. I don't know the IR. I don't know whether they used, if it was white for hot or whatever. It looked like it was over the water, and it looked like, I'm going to say that it was white, it was black for hot, or maybe, or whatever. Either way, those spots represent temperature differences, nothing more. We can't gain anything else from that, like the shape, unless they specifically make out a shape. The cube shape was definitely a shape that was created by the heat signature, and that's all. So there might be more structure we don't even see. How about that? Because water is usually a perfect thing to have behind you when you're doing infrared studies, because your object, if it's the same temperature as the water, the object will have like this dusty comet tail behind it, because its sensor doesn't know what to do as it's traveling. But this one's very, very distinct. So there's definitely a good temperature difference between this object and the water. And that was actually a good part of this video. So all that said, I think maybe the cube shape is the actual shape. And I think those black spots represent a temperature difference. I know they do, a temperature difference within that cube shape.
Okay. All right.
Well, Mark, you brought up exactly what I'm trying to bring out here, in that there is a body of work. And in the body of work of the videos that have been released, what they're showing, the portions they're showing, we don't see any demonstration of any of the observables, which would inconclusively lead us to know that it's a non-terrestrial technology.
That's
They don't give us that.
Now, we don't see any of that in any of the videos that have been released thus far. Now, if you listen to testimony of Fravor and Graves and Grush and several others, you'll hear testimony saying that there was incredible motion that was unlike anything we could do. Now, I found out a couple months ago that I'm probably going to be asked to testify in Congress as well because of a USO that I saw when I was on, not saw, but was witness to as part of, I was just on a submarine, as a guest, okay, for lack of a better term. And while on there, something buzzed through the sonar at several hundred knots. And I only have that as an anecdotal story, and I did confirm, because I did a job with the Joint Chiefs 2 years later, and I confirmed with the chief, the guy in charge of the U.S. Navy, that indeed there is a program called the Fast Mover Program, and they observe and report and do not engage these objects underwater. So clearly, we have the armed services encountering these things all the time. And unfortunately, 99% of these things are ordinary objects captured in an extraordinary way. The Reaper is pretty extraordinary. And it's capturing this object right here, the video that Greg showed us so nicely. And it's captured this object doing something really interesting. But again, it's shooting a missile at a UFO. And if you're going to shoot a missile at a UFO, you're going to bring it down. You want to bring it down. Why would they shoot a non-exploding ordnance at a UFO? I don't think they would. I think they would shoot an explosive ordnance at a UFO. So that's what I didn't see.
Clearly, the UFO deactivated the ordnance and the missile.
Not clearly, but yeah, I know. You're
I'm trying to get clicks.
You got it. Well, you got clicks. Click. Yeah. Well, that's the joke we were saying, right? Is that, of course, everyone will just jump to that. Well, obviously, as you had said, the missile was deactivated. Sure. Yeah. Then why didn't it just push it away? Come on. If it could deactivate the missile, it could shunt it away. But I do want to, regarding that study of the length of the missile. This was something I did not do, by the way, Greg, and I think that would be good. If the length of the missile changes from where you originally see it to where you see it when it goes through and slows down, then it shows that its path changed upward or downward from our view. So it would foreshorten and look like it's going slower.
I could show the video again, like Bob originally said, and then we could sort of see that. And you don't see the missile when it's going through the object, unfortunately.
Okay, let's do this. I know that Greg wanted to show in a zoom out of the video what might be the sparkles actually trailing and not falling, those little satellite objects. So maybe we can go back to that, but let's go back to the video. If you take this down, and we'll be running out of time after that. So if we could put the video back up, and maybe you can stop it when you want to show something specific.
All right, so
are we talking about the zoomed out portion?
Okay, Greg?
No, we're going to do this part and then the zoom out.
So right here is the power surge that I'm talking about. Let me go back real quick. So that's the power surge right there. And then you see after this, the lock is lost. And you see that the UFO moved over to the left. and the box is over to the right. And then you see the box snap back over to the UFO, and then it brings the UFO back to the crosshairs, and then the UFO starts rotating its nose in the direction of the Hellfire. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So now here's when the Hellfire comes in. You can kind of get an idea for the size of the Hellfire versus size of the object. I estimate it's like 3 times.
It's
So
almost
here,
it's almost as if it's a submarine trying to turn to avoid a torpedo.
yeah, so here is where the Hellfire is engaged. The object, you can't see the Hellfire.
Yeah. Okay.
But when I do my frame by frame, quote unquote, analysis of it, it takes quite a few frames to go through this little area where the UFO is. And it takes the same amount of frames before the Hellfire hits the UFO. It's like 2 inches on my computer screen, where on my computer screen, the UFO is like a half an inch in length. So it looks like it took more frames to go through a half an inch of the UFO than it did before the missile hit the UFO, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Can you?
So
Yeah. Okay. Can you go back? Yeah. There you go. So, bring it back to the center of the object. Okay.
okay, so this is right where it hits. You can see right here
Yep.
where
I
my
see
mouse
it.
is. That's where it's at the edge of the border of the object itself.
All right. Now, okay, that's what I wanted to see. Now, that direction. All right. Now, when you see a Hellfire launch, sometimes they get squirrely, and they really move squirrely in the sky for a period of time, for a few moments. And I want to know if this trajectory we're seeing right here is the same trajectory that it had coming in. I think it was coming more of an angle like this and then went out like that. But let's see. I'm just visually looking at it.
See,
Okay.
it's curving
So it's
in, right?
coming down,
And
and
then
then
it
it
curved.
ends out going that way. So you're right. It does. Oh, you see what it does?
Yeah.
So it goes there. It does like an S, right? See, now it's angled differently.
Yeah,
It
it curves
curves
back
and goes
down.
down. So we know there was some squirrely motion going on in there, which may explain some of that. I'm not sure, Greg.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as that surge, I'll just offer, as we mentioned before we went live, that with our infrared systems here on the drone, once I have one infrared system on the drone, I've noted times where, because of the area around the object, sometimes the object is prominent and its brightness is increased because the area around the object was darker. So the heat signature was brighter coming from the object when compared. Because what happens is the sensor balances the whole scene. Okay. The sensor balances everything it sees in the scene. So if there's a lot of, say, dark water below and not a lot of white caps and structure like we're seeing here, then the object is going to be brightened against the against that backdrop because it's the brightest heat object in the view. And then if we get more heat in there, then the sensor lowers the level of the object, and it goes up and down all the time. If you look at it, it does this all the time. It has this curve that's really wacky, and you can't really get anything from that other than more hot objects were in the view at that point, fewer hot objects were in the view at that point, etc. So go
Well,
ahead.
it's better if it's that rather than the UFO became aware of an incoming missile, had a power surge, and then started rotating to point toward the incoming object. That's the alternative, I guess. So it's better
Well,
if it's an anomaly.
I wanted to ask this too. In the lead up to this, did the rotation start only at that point, at a certain point, or did it start early on in the video?
So here is the power surge, and you can see that it's still oriented basically the same way that it was at the beginning of the video.
Okay.
And then after this power surge is when it starts slowly rotating. The difference between this and what Lieutenant Commander or what Commander Fravor said is he said that the UFO he was chasing, the Tic Tac, went boink and then pointed exactly at him. This was not a boink, it was kind of a slow, lumbering
Yeah.
transition over.
And if you notice, the point of that object didn't point exactly at the Hellfire. It was actually sort of shy of it.
It
Okay.
pointed in
It
the
stopped
general
now.
direction.
Yeah. See that? And there it is. See, so now it starts curving and then does an S curve. So that S curve created by the Hellfire was undoubtedly also an altitude change as well. So maybe it came down from above and arced in, or and then arced out, whatever. Um, but that to me, again, we're looking at a three-dimensional view, a three-dimensional event in 2 dimensions. You
Okay,
know,
let me stop you guys there because we're running out of time. One thing
Okay.
you mentioned, earlier, two things. Dennis Frameth, you mentioned twice. Dennis Frameth is a member of the Mufon photo analysis team who could not be with us tonight, but gave his impression of what was going on. Two, Mark, I thought it was very interesting when you said that the Hellfire not only has a FLIR camera, but it has a real-time vision
the
camera.
Reaper,
The
the
Reaper.
Reaper.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I wonder if there's another video out there that we haven't seen. I assume there is.
there
There
is.
was one last thing that I think Greg wanted to show, and that was on the zoomed out version where it might be possible that the main object, while it's traveling, still is accompanied by the other three satellite objects. Can you pull that up, Greg? And then we got to cut out after that.
Yes, I will. Just a second. I'm trying to mute the audio here because
Was
that's
this a nighttime event, by the way?
Burleson, the congressman, doesn't mention, he just mentions the date.
Okay, because that would explain why a visual one wasn't available, possibly.
Okay, Seth, do you have anything to add before we show this video and wrap it up? Wait, Seth, here we go. Let's see. All right, now, Greg, explain what we're seeing.
okay. So what I noticed after the Hellfire hits the missile, there's little sparklies that are going on right around the cubes here, what I'm calling the cubes. I don't know if those are some kind of artifact or reflection of the cubes or these objects in the water, but you see these sparkly things happen after the missile hits the UFO, and then on the zoom out view, you see more sparklies. And when I first saw this, I thought the sparklies on the zoom out view were the three cubes following the UFO. But it could, now that I'm looking at it for the umpteenth time, I'm wondering whether maybe it's like what we see lens flares in our UFO images that we try to analyze. So
It's always umpteenth, isn't it? It's always the
yeah,
umpteenth time.
it is. So here there's like a little sparkle here and one just above the cube here. But you see there was a flash of like little dots.
Again, that's a change in heat signature only that we're seeing. And
So here on the zoom out view, I see something that's sparkling as,
Above it.
yeah, above it. Like right here, this is one of the sparkly things. And the UFO did move up the screen. Now, I don't know if that's actually north. Who knows what direction this was looking at, but it looked like the UFO was moving up and down and sideways after the hit on the zoom out view. But there's all these, I don't know, it could be a reflection like a lens flare.
I noticed in the zoom out portion, we had some HUD data at the lower right,
Yes.
and that was the target data at the lower right. And it was only a little bit of it. We didn't get to see all of it. But I saw 602 meters, and I saw, I wasn't
Yeah,
sure what
right.
that, yeah, down there. I'm not sure what we're looking at.
And up at the top, you have upside. You have a chevron with
Yeah.
-4.
Yeah, these numbers right here.
Yeah, down there, and every now and then they drift into view.
Yeah, so maybe it was a handheld cell phone like I mentioned, because it wouldn't, those numbers wouldn't actually be moving like
No,
that.
they would not.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's actually what happened with the Iraqi jellyfish video. That may have been a screen grab because it
Yeah,
was
you can
received.
really
Yeah.
All right.
right.
see those sparkly things there. So anyway, that's those are literally all the things I've noticed, and
Okay.
for my part anyway.
Okay, so let's leave it there because we're just about out of time.
Okay.
There's no consensus, and there never can be a consensus because we don't have the metadata. We don't know if the date's actually correct. We don't know if the location's actually correct. So inconclusive, right?
Well, Burleson even says he has no idea. It was dead dropped on him, I think is what he called it, or some kind of a drop, where next thing you know, he just gets this file. He has no idea who gave it to him or anything. He has no idea where it came from. It's like Lou Elizondo. I have no idea where this came from.
Well,
That doesn't
MJ
cut it. That doesn't
the
cut
MJ
it for me.
the MJ12 documents just landed on somebody's porch one day in
Well,
an envelope.
Yeah.
For those, you don't want it to be Jamie Shander. That's got to be the guy that gets the documents. I mean,
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, this was a soft target. It clearly looked like a soft target hit. Even if the Hellfire had ordnance in it, it wouldn't have exploded unless it was, meant to explode at that particular location. And if you're launching a missile at a UFO, you want it to explode. That's what the military, that's how the military thinks. You don't send a probe Hellfire at a UFO. You
You
know,
negate the threat.
yeah, that's right. You bring down the threat if you can, and they didn't do it. So, and clearly that was a conscious decision. And I think, Greg, you're right. I think it was probably one of those Ginsus that they launched at it. And they did it because it was probably a soft target. And maybe, and that's, I hate dead drops because they can just be anything you want until it's not, and I think this, I'm going to say it, and I think it's a nothing burger, my opinion.
I think
Okay.
if we evaluate the body of work and all the videos that have been put out there, we'll be able to determine what they want us to believe. I think that the narrative is being defined by the anecdotal evidence they're passing through to Congress and the people that are putting the information out there.
Well, Burleson got this document or this data from somewhere he doesn't understand, somewhere he doesn't know, somewhere he can't verify.
mhm.
Right away, that puts you in the whole realm
Yeah.
of, okay, we have to kind of just take this one with not just a grain of salt, but the entire salt shaker.
I think all the photos that are like unvetted when they're presented at these congressional hearings is getting to be like the sky is falling, Chicken Little.
Yeah.
Like another thing that hasn't been vetted.
Yeah, you remember Lou Elizondo's photo of the UFO with a
Yeah.
shadow?
Yeah.
Well, I was flying to Colorado to see this guy, okay, to do a talk out there. Remember that? And on the way out there, I passed over farm fields, and I took that very same photo
Yeah.
of a irrigation field, a light one next to a dark one.
Yeah.
With the right perspective, hey, it looks like a shadow.
It absolutely looked like something when he first presented it at the meeting. And then when you go look on Google Maps, actually, you can actually see that field in Google Maps. You can see what he presented.
Yeah.
It's right there. And there was a video I saw that had the information on how to replicate that. And
Yeah, and then I did it from an actual aircraft actually flying in the sky. I actually photographed these circles because I thought they were irrigation circles and mistaken irrigation circles. And when I took the picture and said, look, it's Lou Elizondo's photo, right? But it obviously wasn't, but it was similar, yeah.
Hey guys, we got to leave it there.
okay.
I'm sorry.
We're having fun.
Mark, Greg, Seth, I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody watching appreciated it too. Listen, Mufon, has been around since 1969. We take UFO reports. Simply go to mufon.com and click on the report a UFO or report an abduction button. To join, it's very inexpensive. There's a lot of benefits. Most importantly, you get access to our 145,000 case database. And if you're interested in being a field investigator with us, I think it has been a joy for all four of us to investigate UFOs over these past
Absolutely.
decades. All right. That's it, guys. I'm going to hit end record, and it's a pleasure working with you. See you next time we do this.
See you guys.